The world stands at a crossroads, facing a future fraught with uncertainty and peril. The spectre of a Third World War, once relegated to the realm of dystopian fiction, now casts a long shadow over our collective destiny. Expert assessments paint a sobering picture, with a significant percentage predicting a major global conflict by 2035. This is not mere alarmism, it is a stark warning rooted in a confluence of alarming trends. Rising geopolitical tensions, the erosion of the global order, and the proliferation of advanced weaponry, including weapons of mass destruction. The potential consequences of such a conflict are almost too grave to contemplate. A major power war in the 21st century, particularly one involving nuclear weapons, would have devastating humanitarian, economic and environmental repercussions. Millions, perhaps billions, could perish. The global economy, already fragile, could collapse, and the very fabric of civilization could be irrevocably torn asunder. While the exact contours of such a conflict remain uncertain, several factors point to its growing likelihood. The post-Cold War era of relative peace and stability is giving way to a new era of great power competition. The international system, once anchored by shared norms and institutions, is fraying at the seams, and technological advancements, while offering immense promise, are also creating new domains and instruments of warfare, increasing the risk of miscalculation and escalation. In this context, it is imperative that we confront the possibility of a Third World War with clear eyes and a sense of urgency. This is not a time for complacency or denial. It is a time for sober analysis, strategic thinking, and a renewed commitment to diplomacy, dialogue, and the pursuit of peace. The alternative, as history has tragically shown us time and again, is far too terrible to contemplate. The geopolitical landscape of the 21st century is increasingly defined by a shift away from unipolarity towards a more multipolar world. This transformation has given rise to new centers of power, shifting alliances and heightened competition among nations. Understanding these dynamics is crucial to grasping the potential alignments and fault lines that could shape a future global conflict. On one side of the emerging global divide, we see the potential coalescence of what might be termed an axis of powers. This group, united by a shared antipathy towards the existing Western-led order, includes Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. These countries are increasingly coordinating their actions, sharing military technology, conducting joint exercises, and providing each other with economic and diplomatic support. Their shared goal is to weaken the influence of the United States and its allies, reshape the international system to better serve their interests, and assert their own regional and global ambitions. On the other side of this divide stands the traditional Western alliance, led by the United States and anchored by NATO. The Quad, comprising the US, Japan, Australia, and potentially India, and other key partnerships. While this alliance still possesses significant military and economic might, its unity and resolve are being tested by internal divisions, shifting priorities, and the perception of American decline. Moreover, the willingness of other countries to join this alliance in a future conflict is not guaranteed, as many nations seek to chart a more independent course or hedge their bets in a multipolar world. The potential for conflict between these two blocs is undeniable. While a direct military confrontation between nuclear-armed superpowers remains unlikely, the risk of miscalculation, escalation, or a regional conflict spiraling out of control is very real. Moreover, the growing interconnectedness of the globalized world means that even a localized conflict could have far-reaching consequences, disrupting supply chains, sparking economic turmoil, and exacerbating political tensions worldwide. While the prospect of a global conflagration is deeply unsettling, it is crucial to remember that such conflicts rarely erupt out of thin air. They are often the culmination of long-simmering tensions, unresolved disputes, and strategic miscalculations that ignite in specific locations, transforming regional flashpoints into catalysts for wider war. In our current geopolitical climate, several such flashpoints stand out as potential triggers for a larger conflict. At the forefront of these concerns is the Taiwan Strait, where China's increasingly assertive stance towards Taiwan has raised alarm bells worldwide. Beijing views Taiwan as a breakaway province that must be reunified with the mainland, by force if necessary. With the US committed to supporting Taiwan's defense, any Chinese attempt to seize the island by force could quickly escalate into a superpower confrontation with catastrophic consequences. Meanwhile, Russia's ongoing aggression in Ukraine has shattered the illusion of peace in Europe and exposed the fault lines of the post-Cold War security architecture. Moscow's willingness to use military force to achieve its objectives, coupled with its nuclear saber-rattling, has raised fears of a wider conflict in Eastern Europe, potentially drawing NATO into a direct confrontation with Russia. The Middle East, a region long riven by conflict and instability, remains a powder keg with the potential to ignite a global conflagration. Iran's nuclear ambitions, its support for terrorist groups, and its rivalry with Saudi Arabia and Israel create a volatile mix that could easily boil over. Moreover, the growing nexus between Iran and Russia, particularly in the realm of military cooperation and potential nuclear technology sharing, adds a dangerous new dimension to the equation. Finally, North Korea, under the erratic leadership of Kim Jong-un, continues to pose a significant threat to regional and global security. Pyongyang's relentless pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles, its history of provocative actions, and its deepening alliance with Russia and China make it a wild card that cannot be ignored. These flashpoints, each with its own unique set of dynamics and actors, represent the most likely points of ignition for a wider conflict. Understanding the intricacies of these conflicts, the motivations of the key players, and the potential for escalation is essential for any effort to prevent them from spiraling out of control and engulfing the world in flames. Looming over any discussion of future conflict is the spectre of nuclear weapons. These horrific devices, capable of inflicting unimaginable death and destruction, represent the ultimate deterrent but also pose an existential threat to humanity. In assessing the likelihood of a Third World War, it is essential to grapple with the role these weapons play and the chilling possibility of their use. Expert assessments offer little comfort, with a significant number predicting a non-zero chance of nuclear weapons being used in the next decade. While the use of such weapons in the initial stages of a conflict remains unlikely, their use by desperate actors later, in a protracted war, particularly if conventional forces fail to achieve their objectives, becomes a more plausible, if still horrifying, scenario. The potential consequences of even a limited nuclear exchange are almost too terrible to contemplate. Beyond the immediate devastation and loss of life, the long-term effects of radiation poisoning, environmental contamination, and potential nuclear winter could render vast swaths of the planet uninhabitable, plunging humanity into a new dark age. Despite these risks, the taboo against nuclear weapons use, while fraying, remains strong. The memory of Hiroshima and Nagasaki serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of nuclear war and the principle of deterrence. The idea that the possession of these weapons by multiple states prevents their use has largely held for over 70 years. However, the current geopolitical climate, marked by rising tensions, shifting alliances, and a renewed emphasis on nuclear weapons by certain states, suggests that this taboo cannot be taken for granted. The risk of miscalculation, accident, or the actions of a rogue actor cannot be discounted. Moreover, the proliferation of nuclear weapons technology to new states, with Iran considered the most likely candidate to join the nuclear club in the coming years, further complicates the already precarious nuclear landscape, increasing the risk of regional arms races, accidental use, or the weapons falling into the wrong hands. In this environment, it is imperative that the international community redouble its efforts to prevent nuclear proliferation, reduce existing stockpiles, and strengthen the norms and institutions that govern the use of these weapons. The alternative, a world where nuclear war is no longer unthinkable, is too terrible to contemplate. The United States, with its unparalleled military might, remains a pivotal actor in global affairs and a key player in any potential future conflict. However, while the US military is still widely considered the most powerful in the world, its dominance is not absolute and is facing a number of challenges in the 21st century. On the one hand, the US military retains significant advantages in terms of technology, training, and global reach. Its vast arsenal of advanced weaponry, including aircraft carriers, stealth fighters, precision-guided munitions, and cyber capabilities, gives it a significant edge in conventional warfare. Moreover, its network of bases and alliances around the world allows it to project power globally and respond to crises on multiple fronts. However, the US military is not without its vulnerabilities. Years of counterinsurgency operations in Afghanistan and Iraq have strained its resources and manpower, while its technological edge is being challenged by the rapid military modernization of China and Russia, particularly in areas like hypersonic missiles, artificial intelligence, and space-based weaponry. Moreover, the US faces a growing capacity problem. While its current military strength may be sufficient for immediate needs, sustaining a prolonged conflict, particularly one involving multiple adversaries or requiring a large-scale deployment of ground forces, would necessitate a significant increase in military spending, a reprioritization of national resources, and potentially even a return to conscription. Finally, the US military's ability to respond effectively to a global conflict will depend not only on its own capabilities, but also on the strength and cohesion of its alliances. The willingness of NATO allies to shoulder their share of the burden, the potential role of partners like Japan and Australia, and the stance of key regional players like India will all be critical factors in determining the outcome of any future conflict. In short, while the US military remains a formidable force, its dominance is not assured. Maintaining its military advantage in the 21st century will require sustained investment, technological innovation, a clear-eyed assessment of future threats, and a renewed commitment to strengthening its alliances and partnerships around the world. Please like, share, and subscribe.